Good evening. This is Dimitri Lascaris coming to you from Kalamata, Greece on the evening of September 23rd, 2024, with my regular guest, Laith Marouf, geopolitical analyst extraordinaire, who nowadays finds himself in the heart of the maelstrom, Lebanon. It does appear, Laith, thank you again for joining me. Thankfully, you've remained safe. Your family's safe for the time being, and we're thinking of you because obviously the situation is reaching new levels of violence and depravity on the part of the Israeli regime. I'd like to begin, Laith, by asking you, before we're going to get into obviously the attacks that have occurred over the past 48 hours on both sides. But something happened in the last day or so which struck me as rather odd. And certainly it is notable. And that is that the former head of the CIA, Leon Panetta, told CBS News that he didn't think that Israel's pager and walkie-talkie attack, he didn't think there was any question. That's what he said. I don't think there's any question that it was a form of terrorism on American television. What do you make of this statement? Do you think he's speaking on his own initiative? And whether or not he is, why would he say that? Which is obviously true, by the way, but why would he say that?
Well, good to be with you, Dimitri. We are still safe for now, but things are developing very fast. Why would he say that? I think he's definitely speaking on his own, and we will be seeing more and more truly patriotic Americans that we haven't thought that we're part of the establishment for long. As the empire starts driving itself into the abyss, we will start hearing more and more voices like his that are trying to stop the train wreck because of their love of their own country, or wanting to stay their society safe, not because they're not in support of torture and genocide in general or terrorism that the United States has conducted against huge swaths of this planet for the last 80 years since the end of World War II. So that's the thing. The other thing is that clearly this cyber terrorism attack is not only unprecedented in the realm of electronic warfare, because this is the first time that we see the targeting of consumer goods to be used as a weapon, but it's also the first widespread breach of the international war laws against booby trapping civilian objects in the situation of war. And so these two things being breached as a norm opens up Pandora's box. If the Zionists are allowed to target civilian objects like pagers, then anybody can blow up our phones, our computers. So it's not anymore cyber warfare that is directed towards military or government infrastructure. It is directed towards the little things that are around us in society that have now permeated every part of our life, these smart objects and computers and so forth. So that's one. The other is, if, as we saw the Western media and elite glorify this act, okay, it also, they were claiming that this was targeting Hezbollah members. But all of these, the majority, of course, of the those who were injured and martyred were not Hezbollah members. But beyond that, the majority of Hezbollah members that were martyred or injured were during their civilian life activities. Okay, so they were not wearing fatigue on the front line. That means that if this is normalized, and this is what the Western media and Western elite have normalized since last week, then that means that every Israeli quote unquote civilian, because they serve in the Israeli military, when they're out of uniform and in their pizzeria, like just after the second intifada, they are legitimate targets to be blown up inside their pizzeria. You see where the Pandora's box goes, the opening of it? And this is what's freaking out the whole planet outside the imperial domains. And this is what's definitely freaking out somebody like the CIA former director.
Right. Just to update us, Laith, what is the current casualty count from this barbaric attack? How many wounded and how many dead?
So the latest, just before we got on right now, was like 300 and almost 30 martyred. There's a whole family of Syrian workers, refugees that are in the south. The house was bombed on top of them. There's tens of children and women. The vast majority are all civilians. And there was a attack on the Dahi, and the number of injured is over 1,000 now, reaching almost 2,000. We'll see the numbers are rising rapidly because the bombardment continues by the Zionists, and they are targeting rescue crews. There's already 2, that was in the morning. I think must be an update. I haven't seen it yet, but at least 2 paramedics martyred. Their ambulance was attacked, and another 16, 17 rescue workers, firefighters, and nurses that were injured. And there was attacks on outside multiple hospitals in the south of Lebanon as civilians were arriving. So the numbers are clearly rising rapidly, and with all the civilian infrastructure destroyed, and there hasn't been yet much lifting of the rubble to see who is under and where, especially under the bombardment that is going. And there was an attack on Dahi just a few hours ago. The Israelis claimed that they were intending to assassinate another Hezbollah member. Alhamdulillah, thanks to God, there is no martyrs in the building. There was 3 missiles fired on it in this building in the Dahi, and it appears that at least one of those missiles failed to detonate. So the 2 missiles that the Americans and the Israelis have been using this method of firing multiple missiles on one building, and the 3 or 2 in the head their job is to dig a path for the last big bomb that's going to come and explode. And it seems like the last missile didn't explode.
Before we talk about the response, I want to just put a little more granularity on the situation, the effects of these attacks. I've seen some pretty horrific photographs of the effects of these exploding pagers and walkie-talkies. Can you tell us a little bit about the types of injuries that people have sustained?
There is a huge number of those injuries that are in the eyes and the hands and or the pelvis area. Given either somebody was wearing that pager, was holding it when it rang, and or was looking at it when it exploded. So we know it's the largest cohort of blinded, disabled group since World War II. So that shows you how much of a terrorist action this was. This is unheard of. Okay, we're of course have been getting used to unheard of things since the beginning of the genocide in Gaza, and in fact since the beginning of Al-Aqsa flood, the revolt of a prisoner population in an extermination camp with hovercrafts, and their defeat of 12 Israeli bases and their generals is unheard of. The genocide conducted by the Zionists on live television using the most advanced weapons in the world and with AI involved in it is unheard of. All of us watching this for almost a year is unheard of. And now we are getting to this, another shock. And people should get ready for more shocks. Every day of this war will be another shocker for you. And, I think we don't know what's going to happen. I wish for the best for all of humanity, but we're hurtling towards the abyss, all of us together.
I don't think there's any question we're going to be shocked again and again and again, because the unequivocal, unambiguous message that Western governments have sent to Israel over the past 11 months is, no matter what you do, we will continue to arm you. We will continue to protect you from the consequences of your own barbarism, your own satanic behavior. And so why wouldn't people whose singular objective is to wipe out Palestinians, massacre anybody who puts up any form of resistance, continuously engage in new forms of depravity? They've been told in no uncertain terms that they have the green light to do anything. So I think that this is inevitable, sadly. And we will all pay the price, including the Israelis. So, Laith, I'd like to talk to you about the response of the Islamic resistance to the pager and walkie-talkie terrorist attack last week. In the past day or so, it has issued a few statements about its response, and it's described the response as an initial one to this brutal massacre. What it says was a brutal massacre, and indeed it was. And it reports that it has responded initially by targeting the military industries complexes of the Rafael company, which are in the north of Haifa, using dozens of Fadi-1, Fadi-2, and Katyusha missiles. That, according to the Islamic resistance, began at 6:30 a.m. on Sunday morning, September 22nd. And this was accompanied, this attack on Rafael, by not one, but two operations targeting the Ramat David military airport southeast of Haifa, which houses Air Force squadrons and fighter jets. The Ramat David airbase is reportedly the only airbase in the north of occupied Palestine that's used by the Israeli military for aerial operations against Lebanon, and is also considered one of the largest air bases, I think, in the north. Before I ask you to comment on these responses, these military responses, Laith, I just want to show our audience a clip from a video, which you and I discussed on a prior episode, a surveillance video shot apparently by a drone of the resistance over the Rafael facilities and over the Ramat David Air Base. Here's some of what that video showed.
As part of its Hoopo mission, the Lebanese group has flown some of its top-notch drones over some very sensitive Israeli military sites and has bypassed the Israeli air defense systems completely. Now, after the reconnaissance missions, Hezbollah again released a series of videos that clearly show the key military targets in the state of Israel. Now, take a look at these three videos that have been released by Hezbollah in a span of a month, showcasing the vital Israeli assets: Ramat David Air Base, the Golan Heights, and key ports and infrastructure in Haifa. The videos were released amidst mounting tensions over the Israel-Gaza war and the exchange of fire across Lebanon's border with Israel. Now, this video is the third in a series of Hezbollah's videos, and it is over 8 minutes long. The drone footage was released by the Lebanese group on the 24th of July. It showed the air defense facilities, planes and fuel storage units at Ramat David Air Base in Israel. Now, Hezbollah said that the video was in fact meant to demonstrate as to how far its surveillance of Israel had reached.
So, Laith, what can you tell us about the outcome of these attacks on Rafael and the Ramat David military base. And can you tell us specifically about these Fadi missiles? Because this is the first time I've heard of them being used in this war.
All right. So since the morning, Hezbollah has also attacked those same locations again and again. And the Ramat David airbase is actually one of the three major air bases that the Israeli Air Force utilizes. So it's one out of three major ones. Now it's out of service, it seems like. And the attacks on the Rafael military industries complex, it also being repeated over and over. This is important because this is the company that builds the anti-air defense systems that Zionist military uses, from the Iron Dome all the way to the David Sling. It's all made there, and this is the biggest factories that they have. So now we add upon that the targeting of the major warehouses for munitions in and around Tabariya Lake and Safad. Those were also targeted multiple times today. And just now, also a few minutes ago, before we went on this recording, Hezbollah fired unknown new missiles, and they were directed towards this area around Safad and Tabariya Lake or Sea of Galilee. And finally, the major artillery bases in the Golan Heights have been pounded relentlessly since the morning. So we can see that there is a pattern here, and that is that now all the major bases in both the Golan Heights and all of North Palestine, down to the southern point of Lake Tabariya, across all the way to Haifa, is now a firing zone for Hezbollah and the resistance in general. And by the way, there has been just a few missiles right now that hit outside Tel Aviv. And finally, there is reports of waves of drones from Iraq that the Jordanian anti-air defenses, meaning American soldiers manning Patriot missile systems, are firing at them as they are heading towards occupied Palestine.
And is it in fact the case that these are, to the best of your understanding, this is the first time these Fadi missiles have been employed during the last 11 months by the resistance?
Yes, this is the first time they use them. They are named after one of the martyrs of Hezbollah that were responsible for creating the missile program of Hezbollah. But these missiles are actually designed and made by the Syrian military-industrial complex, and their machinery complete was delivered to Hezbollah for Hezbollah to be able to manufacture their version of it, which they named Fadi. But this is just to tell you also how much Syria is invested in this struggle, and it still is the backbone, I think, of the resistance as a whole for its military scientific developments and for the delivery of weapon systems.
There was a report I saw, I believe it was from the Cradle, and maybe it originated from the Islamic resistance, that these missiles were fired from one of those tunnels, those elaborate tunnels that Hezbollah showcased in one of its videos, I think a month or two ago. Do you have any information about that? Is this the first time that they are actually firing from these types of locations, to your knowledge?
Well, there's clearly nobody that can tell you where did they fire these missiles from, and someone who's gonna make that claim is actually harming. If they claim that they're on the side of the resistance, they're harming the resistance if they do so. And so, no, I don't think anyone has that knowledge. And of course, there is constant, nonstop bombardment and drone and satellite right now coverage of most of Lebanon. Again, before we got onto this recording, there was multiple attacks on the north of the Beqa Valley, much north than me and you on our visit went. So there's targeting specifically of the mountain ranges between Syria and Lebanon. There's targeting of the Iqlim al-Tufah, the apple sector that you visited, the mountain there. Again, because the Israelis are claiming that there is one of these IMAD, bunkers under the mountain there, and that mountain has now to live over 150 sorties against it since last night. So clearly, and there's still missiles being fired. So clearly, whatever the Israelis are doing even is not working.
Just to clarify for the benefit of our audience, yes, I stayed on that mountain. It's Mount Safi, I believe it's called, during one night in August. This was actually, I believe it was the day before the resistance launched its retaliation for the killing of Shakur. Look, I didn't see any military activity whatsoever on that mountain, but given the fact that it overlooks the whole of South Lebanon, it's an impressive height. It would be surprising if it is not playing some kind of a role in the resistance. But in any event, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about this character, Amos Hochstein. So Hochstein goes to visit the genocidal regime in occupied Palestine about a week ago. And as he has done repeatedly throughout the genocide, he claimed to be going there to, quote unquote, diffuse tensions in the region. And then all of this happens. There seems to be a strange pattern, Laith, that whenever an envoy or a supposed diplomat of the Biden administration comes to the region to, quote unquote, diffuse tensions, tensions escalate dramatically. Is that your sense at all as well? And what do you think Hochstein is actually up to?
He is definitely trying to get the best for the Zionist colony. That's his priority. He was an ex-officer in their military, and he's a Zionist. That's the end of the story. There's not much to say there. He will bring down the whole world for this fascist colony. There's already talks of a joint Qatari-Turkish delegation arriving in Beirut tomorrow to try to negotiate a ceasefire. So you can see already all the house slaves being sent on their same mission of trying to negotiate with the resistance in Gaza, while in reality they're there to collect information, to bribe off as many people as they can with their money, and to bring threats behind closed doors from white master, but in wars of like, hey, they're gonna genocide you if you don't do this. We care for you. This is how the envoys of Qatar and Turkey are do their work. And also, there's a French delegation that's supposed to follow. And I think all of these delegations will find and be given the same answer that Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah gave in his last speech, which is there will be no stopping of this war and this back and forth between the Zionists and Lebanon until the genocide in Gaza is stopped. And we're ready to go to the end of the road for that. And so no matter what they try to say, and this is why we understand then that all of this terrorism over the last week by the Zionists and the terrorist attacks today of bombarding all these civilian homes and infrastructure is designed to strengthen the position of Israel in its mind when supposedly the envoys of the empire arrive to win some retreat from Hezbollah, and they're not going to win anything. And we're going to see ourselves in a much bigger war after those envoys leave tomorrow.
You know, it just seems unthinkable, Laith, I'm sure you agree with this, that the leadership of the Islamic resistance of Hezbollah would ever agree to stop attacking Israeli military bases while this genocide is ongoing. I mean, I think at this stage, it's no exaggeration to say that this is existential for Hezbollah for a variety of reasons. And one of them is it would be completely and utterly discredited in the eyes of all of its supporters if it stopped attacking Israel while it continues, the genocidal regime, to slaughter Palestinian babies, women, other children, elderly men, and so forth, and is in fact expanding its genocidal assault to the occupied West Bank. I mean, I take it you would not contest for one moment that that would be the end of Hezbollah as a resistance movement, as a political force, and that there really is no prospect of these clowns, you know, these envoys coming to Lebanon, securing some kind of a ceasefire in the north while the genocide is happening.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, look, people must understand that Hezbollah is very truthful when it speaks about the resistance axis being the companions of Hussein versus the companions of Yazid. Maybe let's explain that to our non-Muslim, non-Arab watchers. The battle between Hussein and the few just Muslims at the beginning, and the creation of the Umayyad Empire, the usurper that has thousands of soldiers fighting them. So you can't you know, on the one hand, say that and then you actually give up to the emperor. You see, so what does this mean? That means that, you know, just like how the Zionists with Netanyahu and others spoke about Amalek and the Philistines and pushed all this religious rhetoric to mobilize Zionists around the world, they can't, as Zionists, return from this either. Once you've called your enemy and you put it as an enemy within religious connotations, then it's you and your religion versus that person and their religion. And we're right now at this moment where the whole Muslim world is choosing. It's not only Hezbollah today that is also understanding of this contextualization. The whole Muslim world is choosing, are they going to give in to the Emperor Yazid, who's going to usurp Islam and the lands of the people and the monies of the people? Or are you going to fight for justice, even at the expense of martyrdom?
And lastly, Laith, as you've just explained, and as we've said repeatedly in our discussions, all of this would end on the border of Lebanon and occupied Palestine if Israel stopped genociding the Palestinian people. And the Biden administration, who knows who's actually responsible for these statements nowadays? Joe Biden seems less competent mentally than ever. But it put out a statement, somebody directed it to put out a statement, which said that the administration has concluded that a ceasefire is, I believe the words that they used were beyond reach before the election. To close out, I'd like to invite your response to this claim that a ceasefire is beyond reach, the reach of the US government.
So there's definitely an element of truth to what they're saying there, because right now we have a vegetable president. We don't even know if he's able to make any decisions. And there's an American election where the two leaders of the parties are competing on who's more Zionist. Therefore, these elected to be presidents, they cannot pull the leash on the Zionist lobby in the United States and or the Zionist colony itself. So therefore, Netanyahu has full freedom to do whatever he wants to from now until not only the election, but the coming into power of the elected president in January 6th, or what have you. So this is where this is why they're right. They don't have the power to do so. There's a lame duck president, and the decisive vote is going to be about Israel. Who is going to have more support from the Zionist lobby in their election? That's the only decisive thing guaranteed in the American election, and therefore, may God protect us all from now till mid-January.
Amen. Thank you very much for joining me, Laith. Before you sign off, why don't you just give us a brief summary of what Free Palestine TV is up to nowadays? I didn't mention at the outset, you are the executive director of that organization, which is now doing some vital reporting from occupied Palestine.
Yes, please. We are, we have now 7 journalists on the ground in the West Bank in all parts. We have journalists here in Lebanon. We have, whole teams in Syria, Lebanon, and Palestine. We're trying to prepare ourselves to bring you even more daily coverage and more in-depth programming. Visit our website, freepalestine.video, donate. We don't know even when all the banking is going to be cut off from us, and at that point we'll not be able to pay our contributors. So if you have the ability to donate right now, go to the website and donate as much as you can, because tomorrow or the day after, we could be unable to move our funds to pay our employees.
Thank you very much, Laith. Please stay safe, brother, and we'll talk again soon.